even you guys haven't mentioned him. So he's gone completely under the radar.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks. I'm Jason, he's Vaz, and we've got a guest with us today. He's Corey, and the reason Corey's joining us today is because one of our more popular videos has been our top 10 buys during this offseason. Vaz already shared his 5, I shared mine, and we wanted to give you a different perspective of 5 more guys to buy, but from a different angle. So we've invited our friend Corey to join us today. Corey, thank you very much for joining the show and also taking time to let us in on your 5 guys to buy.
Yeah, hopefully you don't regret it.
Well, the worst that can happen is we'll get more information off of you instead of you always getting information off of me and Vaz.
Oh, I was more concerned with you losing all your subscribers.
Yeah,
Why'd
that
you guys
too.
get this moron on here? He knows nothing.
I think Vaz's biggest complaint has always been coming out here, sharing all his information, and other people being able to take advantage of him. Hasn't been too bad yet, huh, Vaz?
No, not at all. I mean, I wanted Corey on more than anybody because every time we talk, we get into an argument. So I knew it'd make some spicy content.
All right. Well, without any further ado, let's get into Corey's top 5 buys for this offseason. Let's start off with a running back, Corey. You've got Devin Singletary picked out. Why do you want to buy on Singletary right now?
All right. The first thing that happens in the offseason is the free agents get signed. There's maybe a trade here or there, and then everyone gets gung-ho on the famous guys like Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon. You're not getting value by trading for those guys now. There's more risk to trading for them now. They might hit the wall in the first few weeks. They might get hurt in the offseason or the beginning of the season, and you've already given up so many assets to get them. And they're not even a game changer for you at the moment. Those kind of guys you can get mid-season or at the trade deadline. They're always available. So the reason I went with Devin Singletary was he's been completely forgotten. No one's talked about him at all. And this guy is the only current running back in New York at the moment. There is no one else there. Probably they will draft someone, but not early. So even you guys haven't mentioned him. So he's gone completely under the radar. And people forget that he was a running back 3 last year. He's not an elite running back, don't get me wrong. But for the first half of the season, he didn't even touch the ball barely. He was sharing duties. If you look at his numbers for the last half of the season, he was unbelievably dominant. He finished with over 1,100 scrimmage yards. Like, how can you ignore that? And if you extrapolate those numbers for an entire season, he became a running back 1. You'll be shocked to hear that. He would have finished as a low running back 1 last season if he had started the entire season. So before you start attacking me, I'll already admit the Giants' O-line sucks. Their passing game isn't great. Singletary isn't a great wide receiver. So in full PPR, he's not a great option. But all that matters is production in this case. So if you can get him for an early 3rd, you've got a steal. Like, the worst that's going to happen is you've given up a 3rd round pick, but you possibly have, in my opinion, I think he would finish in the running back 2 category. I don't think he maintains those same numbers for an entire season. So if you can get a starting running back at that price, you haven't hurt your team. If he sucks, so what? If he hits, great. You've got a starting running back. And if your team doesn't even look good, you'll be able to flip him for more. So that's my reason for Devin Singletary. So Gotcha. Bring it on, boys.
You know what? I think it's a sneaky pick. Like you mentioned, it's definitely something that's under the radar, namely because, as you mentioned, he's not a big name, didn't put up, or you could all argue that he hasn't put up big numbers throughout his career so far. But if he is the RB1 in New York, then there's clearly upside. My only concern would just be what the Giants do in the draft. And if they get a rookie running back that has good talent, then, I could see the possibility of him being put behind him. But beyond that, I'd say just watch closely on the draft, or I guess, gamble perhaps going into the draft on what they do or they don't do, because that could change his value coming out of the draft based on whoever his owner is. But no, beyond that, I really don't have a problem with the assessment. Vaz?
I mean, yeah, I was ready to go toe to toe with Corey on this one when he mentioned Singletary at first, but then he mentioned the value that he wanted to pay for him, and he said, if you can get him for like an early third, then I'm going to back off. I'm not going to jump down his throat because well, an early third is nothing. Like you're probably going to miss with that selection anyways, right? So yeah, I think if you can get Devin Singletary for like an early third, a late second, I'm willing to do that because they did give him, $11 million over the next 2 years. So I think they fully intend to use him. I don't think that's enough money that they're going to, it prevents them from going somewhere in the draft at running back. I think they will probably add some talent, and I don't think he is that talented. So I don't think he's going to carry like the load or anything. He's probably going to be like a 1A or possibly even a 1B in the offense. As Corey said, it's a bad offense. So I don't want Singletary. I don't trust him. I don't want to like put him in my lineup. I'm not going to feel secure. But like if he's my RB4, I'm okay with that. So if I can trade, an early third, even a late second, maybe, like a really late second, then yeah, I'll do that. I'll consider that. But yeah, as I said, I was prepared to go toe to toe with you on this one, Corey, until you mentioned what you're willing to give up for him. Then I'm like, okay, yeah, I can understand that because I wouldn't give up like a mid-second for Singletary because they are pretty likely to add something there, and I don't think he's very talented. And as Corey said, that offense is crap. So
I believe they'll add somebody, but I don't think they'll add anybody early because the team just has too many holes. So they're going to take a dart throw on a late running back or sign a free agent after the draft that didn't get drafted. That's my opinion anyways.
Yeah.
You did give him a 3-year. It's not big money. So he's worth a shot. If he hits, you're golden. If he doesn't, you haven't lost anything.
Yeah.
But whereas if you put all that money or assets or picks or players into Henry and it turns out he's hit 30 and he's done, where do you stand now? You're out. But Singletary is a no loss proposition, right?
Yeah, I get I totally picking up what you're putting down there. And I know you like to add running backs to the deadline. So I know at this stage you're just looking for like easy production for a cheap price. So I get where you're coming from for sure.
I think one thing that Vaz sort of half mentioned was if Singletary is like your RB2 or maybe even your flex, then your team's in trouble, right? So I think he's a good depth piece, a good guy for bye weeks and that sort of stuff. But by no means should he be looked at as a piece that your team needs to rely on. But he could be a guy that gains value that maybe can flip for something, some extra production later on or some higher draft picks later on. So I don't have a problem with that, but just understanding what he is on your team, the role that he plays, and how you should treat that.
Let's take a look at don't overpay. The key part is you don't overpay for him. He's worth a shot, is my point.
Yep. No problem with that. Let's take a look at your next pick, which is a tight end. You're big on Isaiah Likely. Tell me about why.
Oh, God, I love this guy, man. Like, once Mark Andrews went down last year, this guy proved he's legit. He can play, man. Like, he's going to be a star. And he's not going to carry your team this year because Mark Andrews is still around. But we're talking Dynasty, right? Dynasty, you have to look at the bigger picture, the long term. So sometimes you have to pay in advance to get the bargains. Like, for example, how many people are glad that they got Zamir White last year for nothing? And right now he's a starting running back. Now you're not going to get that same price. So Likely is still going to be expensive. Like, he's not going to come cheap in tight end premium leagues or one QB, one tight end leagues because he's going to be that good. But don't get me wrong, he's not going to be a star this year unless Andrews gets hurt. But there's other thing. You have to beat the rush to get bargains sometimes. So you have to do it a year in advance probably, because I'm also thinking next year, Mark Andrews is 30. He's at the end of his contract. They can release him and not have to pay the $17 million only with a $5 million dead cap. So we have to see how Mark Andrews does this year and if they want to extend him or not. Isaiah Likely is still a baby as well. So this guy, I'm willing to give up a late first and early second for this guy in tight end premium leagues with no problem. You can't find them. Look at this year's draft. People are stretching, thinking, oh, Jatavian Sanders is going to be a star. Or I'm like, there's one legit guy. Where do you find these guys? you can't find them anywhere. And as Vaz was saying in, I think it was the previous video, anybody after the top 8 roughly is just in the garbage heap. They're just like, pick one out for the week.
Yep.
Likely, I think, becomes a legit elite tight end once he becomes the full-time starter there. So that's why I'm going there with him right now rather than next year, because you can still get a bit of a bargain. Next year, it'll be way more expensive, I think.
All right. I love your assessment on him. He's once again a very sneaky guy to pick up. The only issue I have was that when you mentioned late first, that seemed a little bit high, but anything else that you said, it clearly shows that he's put up numbers double digits. So in weeks 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, 16.8, 15.5, 7.1, 17.2, and 10.1. So
as a
4 out of 5 weeks,
25-year-old,
double-digit
a
points from the tight
25-year-old
end
tight
position.
end.
Yeah, I have no problem with his production. But Vaz, what do you think of value? Because I have when you say late first, that just sure, tight end premium, but at the same time, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, well, in a one QB league, I think it's fine.
Yeah,
because QBs aren't valued there either.
True. Yeah.
So
sorry, no worries. Let me just actually, I'm surprised that we agree on this one so much. I love Isaiah Likely. I love that call. So as I said, you're always searching for those elite talents at tight end, those kind of foundational pieces for your tight end room, right? And Isaiah Likely could be that. So I love this call. I know what you mean. You have to jump in a year early rather than because if you wait another year or two, it's going to be too late. He's going to have a starting role in Baltimore, maybe elsewhere, and he has looked legit. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a great time to buy, and I think it's maybe not the best time to buy either. I think if you were to wait, to let's say week 6 in the season when he's not producing because Mark Andrews is a stud, there's probably going to be even a better time to buy. Maybe if you wait till week 6, week 8, he's not putting up much production. Somebody might be more willing to give him up for a late second or something like that. So that's what I'd be looking for. Because I agree with Jason, a first at this stage, it's too much. Even an early second, it's too much right now. Wait a little bit, wait till the season starts, get him a bit cheaper. But I love it because he's still got 2 years left on his rookie contract. So I think it's probably a good 2 or 3 years before he produces. So people could start to get worried, oh, maybe he's not that guy, and there's might be a slightly better time to buy, but I fully agree that Isaiah Likely is a guy I'm going to chase. I just probably wouldn't want to give up the capital you're saying right now, but yeah, he's flashed great talent and I think he's legit. So especially if he stays with Lamar.
Yeah. And also just make sure that the league format that you play in, that your bench is allowed to be deep enough to be able to hold a guy like that for a year or two to really wait on his production to eventually break out. But once again, a good sneaky pick. I definitely like it, just in terms, as long as you get the right value for it.
What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? You little brat? You have never thanked me. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.
Let's take a look at your next pick, Corey. You've got Deshaun Watson as a pickup. Why?
Yeah, everyone can roll their eyes at me now. Sure, go ahead. But in one QB leagues, of course, this is not an option.
Yeah.
He should be on the waiver wire probably in shallow rostered leagues. But he hasn't done anything for 2 years. I'm going to give everybody that. Everybody knows all this. But he did start the beginning of last season pretty well before he did get hurt. He did look okay. He has a contract that's not going away. So he's going to be starting there for a while. And they do believe in him. They brought in Jerry Jeudy to give another wide receiver for him to work with. So he shouldn't be expensive unless you're in a deep, big team super flex league, because quarterbacks are just almost impossible to find in 14 team or 16 team leagues. So he's still going to be relatively expensive there, but I would probably be willing to give up an early second if I'm lucky. If I'm lucky for him in a 12 team super flex league, I'm willing to take a flyer on him, because if he balls like he did before, and even if you don't need him, you can flip him after. So I did trade for him this year, believing that there's still something there. I just can't believe he fell off the cliff that early. I just think it's been injuries, the trades, his sex scandal. It all built up, and he just didn't play well. And obviously the injury. So if I can get him cheaply now, I'd do it. But I'm not going to overpay for him either, unless
Yeah.
I'm desperate at quarterback. Absolutely desperate.
My only
So,
issue with this pick is I just wonder how low his value has gone. Like, as an example, Russell Wilson has been so bad the last 2 years that it's been in the media of how bad he is. And he's actually been forced to move to another team, and his value really literally has tanked, where you're getting him for, league minimum in terms of salary cap. But then in the fantasy world, I think, public perception is so bad that I think he's seen as a bad quarterback, but is actually better in fantasy than in real life. Whereas with Deshaun, I think first off, Cleveland's been a pretty successful team. And yeah, while his fantasy numbers have not been great, I just wonder if public perception on how cheap he should be is where it is. So I guess for me, the question would just be price, because I think you need to find the Watson owner that is panicking, and that wouldn't be me. So I think you got to find the right owner that has him. Like, he has to be on a guy that's kind of past him now, because with Watson, he still does have the brand value, right? Like, people know the name. He's been good before, and you're going to have people that are reluctant to trade him on the cheap. And that's what you want to do in terms of acquiring him. So that's my only issue with Watson so far. Vaz?
Yeah. So I actually think I'm even higher on Watson than Corey is, it seems. Corey said he'd like to trade an early second for him, but I would be willing to give up more.
If lucky. I
Yeah,
don't
I got
believe
you.
you can get him for an early second. I'm saying if you can get him for that, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I would be willing to pay more than that. So I'd be willing to pay probably I'd probably be willing to pay like the 110 or the 111, because I see a tier break around 109 and or 108. So I'd be willing to trade that pick, and then but I wouldn't want to. Like, if I could trade an early second and like a late second and try to package some pieces together, that's something I'd be willing to do, because you know what? Deshaun Watson's there for 3 more years. They owe him $200 million. They've set him up for success now, bringing in some great Jerry Jeudy, and they have the weapons there with Amari. So I think he's set up for success. I think he's had three quarterback five finishes, so he's proven he can be there. He's got the rushing upside. He's got the talent. He's got the talent. Like, yeah, as you said, he's had a lot of shit going on, so we'll see if he can find it again. But I think he's capable of it, and I'm willing to take that chance. He's going to have 3 years to prove it. So even if he does suck, you're gonna have a starting quarterback for 3 years. So I'm willing to give up probably 2 second-round picks, one being early, to acquire him if I need a quarterback, or even if I don't. I think it's a great buy low.
Yep. Once again, I have no problem paying those prices for Watson as well. My question is always like, are you going to find that guy that's going to be willing to sell him that low?
Yeah.
Because I still feel like people assess him high. But if you're lucky to find someone like that, by all means, I'd be in on that as well. Let's take a look at a couple of wide receivers that you're looking at, Corey, starting with Christian Kirk. Why do you like him to buy?
Oh, I love Christian Kirk. People sitting there will say, oh, T-Law sucked last year. Wasn't great. Ridley's gone now. They brought in big game or bust game Gabe to draw coverage away. Like, give me a break. So fantasy owners often only think about, what have you done for me lately? People forget how good he was 2 seasons ago. He was a wide receiver 1 with Lawrence there, without Ridley there. You know who was on the opposite side? Zay Jones. He's still hovering around, but he's irrelevant. Gabe is basically Zay Jones, but a different type of player. He's not a factor. Also remember, Christian Kirk missed a third of last season. So, and he was still a wide receiver 3. With all that, he still has his big contract too. He's still got a couple years on that. And he's only 27 going into the season. Like, he's in his peak years here. So he's got huge upside that shouldn't be overlooked. And he's not just a rental. Like, I don't believe in buying rentals in the offseason. So if you can get him now and he can help you win now, And even if he doesn't help you win this year, you still have him for another few years because he's not going away. He's too good.
Yep.
So if you can get him for an early second to a mid second, you do that in a heartbeat. So there you go.
Yeah, I love it.
No, I mean, I don't disagree with certainly the situation that he's in. Like you mentioned, Ridley being gone now, I think it does help him out. I do wonder if he's reached his potential. Like you mentioned, he had a good season a couple of seasons ago. I wonder if that is his ceiling and if he ever has the ability to go beyond that. But as long as you're not paying that price, right? So if he's coming off a bad season, like you mentioned, some injuries. So if you're getting a discount on him, by all means, I would say he's worth taking. But I do wonder
that in the season, though. He was still a wide receiver 3 in a lineup.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you can get him at the value, once again, like you have
everything
to find
for me
the
is
owner.
about value.
Yeah, you have to find the owner that's willing to let him go at that price, right? And I'm just saying,
True.
if
everything
that happens,
but that's everyone, right?
Yeah, if that happens, then yeah, sure, definitely, I agree with that. That's
okay. So I agree totally with buying Christian Kirk. I like that a lot. And I what you said about his ceiling, I think he has reached his ceiling, but that's totally fine. I think he's going to be like a high-end wide receiver 2 this year if he stays healthy. And I think you can get him for cheaper than that value. And you know what? I like buying receivers at this age and just like, like reaping the profits, just letting them die on your roster. Because at this point, when they like become 28 years old, or this is going to be his 28-year-old season, people want to sell. The value is declining at this stage, and people want to get rid of them. And I don't know why, because they're in their prime, so they can give you production. If you're competing, this is the kind of receiver you want to target. You could probably get him for a guy like Romeo Doubs or Christian Watson, who's younger, but maybe might not ever amount to anything. So I like flipping one of those guys who I really don't believe in, to be honest, for a guy like Christian Kirk, who will give me that, top end wide receiver 2 production for the next 2 or 3 years, bare minimum. And I can feel confident setting him in my lineup as my wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 2 and be very happy about that. And so I like what, how Corey mentioned this guy, because he is pretty cheap right now. He would be pretty cheap right now. Like, you could find these archetypes on rebuilding rosters and get them for like an early second. And when you get to the early second in the NFL draft, you're at like a 50% hit rate. So if you could take like the 204 and turn it into Christian Kirk, I'm fully on board with that.
All right. And let's take a look at your final pick, Corey. Once again, a wide receiver in Deontay Johnson. Tell us about him.
Just acquired by the Panthers from the Steelers for basically nothing. They basically gave him away. So gotta remember, people get enamored and think about Jamar Chase and JJ and drafting Marvin Harris. We all don't get that option. You have to find players at like under the ground, in the rough. You have to find them somewhere, and for guys with upside. So DJ didn't have a great year last year. He was a borderline wide receiver 3-4. But it sounds horrible, I know. But look at the trio of quarterbacks that were throwing him the ball. They've got to be the worst group I've ever seen in my life. And he also missed a third of the season. So, and another big bonus, he's in his contract year. And people might say, oh, but now he's going to Bryce Young, who's no better than what he had in Pittsburgh. That might be true, but so what? Look what Adam Thielen did at 33 years of age. 100+ receptions, over 1,000 yards. And he was a low wide receiver too. And his talent level is no longer even close to Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson separates. He's going to give him that low guy who gets him, that's open all the time for Young to dish it off. I also believe Bryce will be better than what he had last year. Yep. I'm not a fan of his either, but I think he's better than those guys. So that's a little bit of a bonus. Their running game is horrible. They're going to be passing all the time. They haven't brought in another wide receiver. And if you ever check the Panthers wide receivers, the last 2 wide receivers they picked in the second round, Jonathan Mingo and Terrace Marshall, currently 2 busts. The Panthers don't have a first-round pick. So they have a the first pick of the second round. Probably going to be another bust if they pick a wide receiver. So I'm all in on Deontay Johnson if I can get him, but he's going to be the same price as Christian Kirk is. If you can get a low second, mid second, give it up.
Yeah.
But it's going to be hard to get them. Like I've been trying, but it's hard. Again, it depends on who owns these guys as well.
Yeah.
Like we all want to buy them, but it depends where they are and what league and the situation. So it's easy to say buy these guys. Getting them is another thing. You have to be in the right situation.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And I love this pick. I love what you said about Adam Thielen doing great with Bryce Young, because certainly if that's what Thielen was able to do, then Deontay's only gonna, 5 up that. So certainly I like the pick. Vaz.
Yeah, I do as well. Deontay's a great player. He separates quickly, and that's what Bryce Young needs. And I think, you guys are saying that like Bryce Young might not be great, but he's got the potential to be good. And when he came out, they said everybody was saying he's a really smart player, and I think I saw a bit of that. So I think if he has a receiver that separates quickly like Deontay Johnson, he will find him. He's smart enough to know where to go with the football, and Deontay gets open. So I think Deontay could be in store for like 100 plus receptions this year. It could be a great pickup in PPR. Probably not going to put up huge yardage in that offense or a lot of touchdowns, but if you play in a PPR format, I really love the call. Yeah, and like Corey said, value wise, price wise, probably similar to Christian Kirk. I'd prefer to have Christian Kirk. I think he's just in a better situation, probably like a true number one receiver, whereas Deontay's like a slot. Even though Deontay's probably the number one there, I just think Kirk is like a more true number one in a sense, right? But I like adding Deontay I'd probably pay a bit more for Kirk. I'd probably pay like I said, the 203, 204, Christian Watson, Romeo Dubs for Christian Kirk. I would definitely pay Romeo Dubs for Deontay Johnson and probably like a mid second for Deontay. I'd be looking to get him for a mid second. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot. I like this one as well. And they're the same age. They're both coming into their age 28 season. So yeah, you can buy them for this price, and you can, just grab the production and let them die on your roster. I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah. And the one point that you brought up, Corey, that I love picking players, especially in redraft leagues, is players that are on their contract year. So if you've got a guy who's trying to get a big contract, especially for redraft, trying to get good value on a guy later than you normally would be able to get him, I love plays like that. Let's recap here. Devin Singletary, Isaiah Likely, Deshaun Watson, Christian Kirk, and Deontay Johnson. Vaz, do you have a favorite among the guys on the list? I would say mine would be Isaiah Likely. How about you?
Yeah, I like all of them. I like Likely a lot. I have a least favorite, and that's Singletary. I don't want to add Singletary. If I can get him for an early third, which I don't think anybody would give up right now, I'll take that. But yeah, that's my least favorite for sure. I think my favorite would be Christian Kirk or Isaiah Likely. I like adding Likely, as I said, maybe after the season starts and you can find somebody panicking a bit. Then I like adding Likely then. Right now, as Corey said, I think people aren't selling right now.
Mm-hmm. Nope. Once again, Corey, thank you very much for divulging your list with us and giving us more information on you at the very least. I think we like your list for the most part, and hopefully our viewers will be able to appreciate as well. But leave your comments below. See if you agree or disagree with Corey's list, who you like, who you don't. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Corey, thank you very much for joining us. Certainly hope to have you back with us again in the future.
Well, I haven't scared everybody off yet.
I don't think so.
A lot, Corey.
Not at all.
The key thing with my picks is, before people write comments attacking, it's about value. We're not talking about going and trading for superstars here. We're trying to find pieces that help you win without sacrificing everything you have now to get it, because you don't know what's going to happen. So I'm looking for upside and value.
Yeah, me and Corey are value sluts, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Once again, thank you very much. And thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel so you're up to date the next time we've got some more content up for you. Remember to like the video and share it with your friends as well. Beyond that, we'll see you next time on another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks.